Hey everybody, just want to say hi to friends and family. This is just a video that has been heavy on my mind for a couple years now. Since I retired from the military, it's gotten a little bit worse, or actually it's gotten a lot worse. So it's just something that I've wanted to actually make a video on, since everybody does YouTube videos and this and that. That this was the best way for me to talk to people. So first thing, anything I say in this video is just me talking. There's no researched, numbers or articles. It's literally me talking. So anything you see, if you want to get actual numbers, then you're going to need to go talk to a professional. Um, if you're skinny, this video's not for you. Unless you have a big friend that you may want to talk to um, about this. This is mainly towards the fat people. Um, and some people get offended with the word fat. I'm fat. I call myself fat. Whatever. Um, so with that, by the way, if you see me scratching, it's just because it's sweating. It's almost 95 degrees out, so I'm sweating. Anyway, so just a quick history on myself. I did 20 years in the military. I retired in November of 2019. When I was 13 years old, the summer before my 7th grade year, I hit 200 pounds. Never looked back. Never was a problem because I played football, I was in track, and I was always doing those things, was still active. Even in the Army, I could run. I had no problems with running. Sometimes I think I surprised some people on how I could run, but I've always enjoyed it. It's always been a release for me, things like that. Um, so that's kind of a little bit about my weight and history up to retiring. After I retired, which I retired November of 19, and this is May of 2022, I have gained over 100 pounds. So the idea and thought of weight is something that I see every day. Um, all these opinions or thoughts are coming from someone that's big. I've been big my entire life. These are things that I've seen in the news, seen other people talk about, and some of them I've actually had said about myself. But it's just something that, like I said, this is just me talking. Um, in the Army, I did PT every day. Sometimes it was strenuous, sometimes it was relaxed, fun. We did football. A lot of times we ran. Some of my old sergeant majors said you had a minimum of 2 miles of running every day, and anything you did on top of that was on you, but that was a requirement. That's the way it was, and that's what we did. Um, so it just depended on every day, but you were always doing something every day, regardless. Whether it was the cardio, whether it was push-ups, sit-ups, improvement, whatever. Um, since retiring, I don't have that. The most contact I have with friends from the Army is through Facebook. And even then, that's very limited. And it's, liking videos or something like that. It's not really a, hey, they contacted me and we got into a discussion. Um, one of the biggest things, and it's always on my mind, is when you eat out. One of the things that worries me and that I see with this society is when you go to these fast food joints. Many of the fast food joints, if you go into these places and you see the people that eat there, most of the time you go to the fast food joints, they're not the skinny people that, run a lot, work out a lot, are very active, things like that. Usually it's workers or it is families or things like that, and they're usually not in the best shape. Most of the most of the people that are in shape that I know do not eat fast food, if ever. They cook all their meals at home to get a better source of better food. Some of the meals that I've eaten in the past, I know there was one restaurant that I used to go to, or that we go to frequently, actually. We go to frequently, but one of the meals that I used to get, the meal itself was 1,800 calories. And I also know that most of the nutrition guidelines that talk about, how many calories you should eat per day, usually start at about 1,800 calories for an adult, and they can go up depending on how big you are and things like that. But I know as just kind of a ballpark starting figure, usually it's about 1,800 calories, 1,800 to 2,000. And this one meal was 1,800 calories. So that's one of my biggest problems that I've had in my adult life is all the crap that they put in these foods now to, to keep them shelf stable longer, and all the things that they've done because they're feeding that many more people. I don't know if it's affecting us differently. I don't know. I don't know. But I do know that meals have a whole lot of calories for just being one meal. I went to several dietitians, experts, doctors, things like that throughout my Army career, and they all had the same basic concept, but they all had different ways to do it. And so when you're a fat person trying to learn the best way to eat or trying to learn the best meals or this, that, when people have different ways of doing it, then it makes it kind of hard to know which person is the right way, which person, may not be doing everything the best way. So that's one of the things that I've had throughout my career in my life that have confused me. A lot of the people I see doing these Atkins diets and carnivore diets and all these other things, the keto diets, and there's even one that someone's using that they feed you less than 1,000 calories a day. Well, of course you're going to lose weight. You put your body into a caloric deficit like that, you're going to lose weight. But it raised a red flag to me when they said when you started the diet, you're not allowed to work out because your body doesn't have enough nutrients to actually work out. So that right there was a huge red flag. It's one of the reasons why I never did it. I was thinking about it, but once I saw that, I was like, this cannot be good if they tell you you're not allowed to work out because you could hurt yourself. One of the things that started me thinking about this and understanding that it's not just a food problem, it's a mental health problem, is there's a YouTube personal trainer that did a fit to fat to fit. And basically he said on January 1st, he was going to gain a whole bunch of weight. And then throughout the year, he was going to lose it by the next New Year's Day. Well, he gained it and then he started losing it. He was having a huge mental health problem during his losing the weight. And he even had times where he was second guessing himself and, hitting those walls and plateaus where he couldn't lose the weight. And he's a personal trainer. So how do you think that affects someone mentally that doesn't have the discipline or the desire to lose it as much as he did, and just changing their lifestyle? I think that's one of the biggest problems we have as big people, fat people, whatever you want to call us, about losing the weight, is when mentally and physically healthy people have problems with losing the weight on things like that when they, play these games. It kind of showed me that it's more of a mental game at this point than it is an actual physical game. One of the biggest things that's been on my mind, and reason why this stays on my mind, is because of what I see in the news. And it's all these people that are talking about, you can't fat shame anymore, which I understand completely. That's bullying, this and that. But when they talk about everybody has to be happy with their body, and no matter what size you are, you're beautiful. You may be beautiful, but I have gained over 100 pounds in 2 years. I know how I feel every morning when I get up. I feel absolutely horribly. My joints are hurting. My insides, I can tell, are not as good as they usually are. Breathing wise is a whole lot more difficult. Things like that. So when you've been a certain weight for a significant amount of time, you as a big person that are listening to this may not know that because you've been used to it for so long that it's just normal to you. I've done all this in 2 years, so to me it's still completely abnormal. And it worries me when I see the news and all this culture about how you need to accept big people. You can accept them, and you can also accept that they're going to die early. Because how many times do you see a morbidly obese 80 or 90-year-old man or woman? Usually you don't. Usually in 50s and 60s is when they die. when you see a 90 or 100-year-old person, which the hundreds do happen, usually they're fairly skinny, or at least, not morbidly obese. So when someone who is morbidly obese like myself, when I'm looking at duration of my life at this weight, I don't see me going past 50s and 60s. And that is what scares the crap out of me, because I want to be here for my girls and my wife as long as I possibly can. What's the way to fix that? Lose weight. Also, with this whole COVID thing that's been going on, well, we're a majority of the people that were in the hospital and died from it. Majority of them had multiple issues going on with them, and many of them were overweight. And most of those usually went together. So that is also a thing that's been heavy on my mind. Although I want everybody to accept yourself and be happy in your skin, that is awesome. But you also know that you need to take care of yourself for your family. For yourself, but also for your family. My family is what keeps pushing me to want to do it more. Many people say it's only about you. It's only about you. Yeah, it's only about you. But your family is the one that has to deal with everything when you get that older, and you having all these heart conditions, diabetes, and you're having all these other issues, and you can't walk properly, you can't do all these things. Who takes over? Your family. Walking around a hospital, I've seen several times where the guy's in the wheelchair and his wife is pushing him. I don't ever want to do that. I don't want to be put into that position that my wife is having to push me around in a wheelchair because I'm having heart conditions, I'm having diabetes, I've had this and this and this, to where I can't do it. So when does that start? It starts now. I'm 42 years old, so I still have time. But this is something that if you've watched this 12 minutes and you feel that this is something that affects you and you're dealing with, go get help. Dietitian, psychologist, psychiatrist, friends. One of the best things you can have is a friend that will literally kick your butt to the gym, make you work out, and will be there every step of the way with you. Not everybody has those friends, but those are some of the best ways to do it, especially if you don't have the discipline to do it yourself. Maybe you have a friend that's willing to go with you and help you through this process. Biggest problem is go help yourself to help your family. That is what is worrying me most right now.